Good evening and welcome to Borough Hall. There are 3 items on the agenda this evening. Please note that this hearing is being recorded to comply with the public law for transparency. Web viewers may submit timely comments to Ask Eric at brooklynbp.nyc.gov for Borough President Adams' consideration. Please call the item and let us begin this evening.
Calendar item number 150115 PQK.
The Department for the Aging and Citywide Administrative Services has submitted an application to acquire property located at 5901 13th Avenue for continued use as a senior center. Community Board 12 has not yet voted on this application due to the recent blizzard, so the Borough President will hold off on making any decisions until the Borough President hear from the board with its meeting on February 24th. With the representative for this application, Lee Boyce, please state your name for the record and present the application, and you can stand up and go to the podium. And I forgot to introduce myself, Diana Reina, Deputy Borough President, on behalf of our Borough President, Eric L. Adams. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. So my name is Lee Boyce, and I'm representing the New York City Department for the Aging regarding the lease renewal application for the Amico Senior Center at 5901 13th Avenue. The Amico Senior Center has been a center since the early 70s, and it serves 250 to 300 persons per day. We're very excited about going into a new lease, and we wish the continuity of these premises for many years to come. With me tonight is Joan Pastori, the director of the Senior Center. She can speak very well to the active programming at the site. The map to my left shows the location in blue with the word site.
Good evening. Can you hear me like this?
If you could put it closer to you and just
Okay.
speak into the mic.
Okay, how's that?
Yes.
All right, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dr. Joan Pastori, and I'm the director of Amico Senior Center. Amico Senior Center has been in existence since the 70s, like Lee said, and has been housed at its present site, 5901 13th Avenue, since its inception. Since opening, thousands, if not tens of thousands, of older adults have come through the center's doors seeking a sense of community, belonging, and fellowship. The center has also provided a safety net for many frailer, more vulnerable older residents who may now be in need of additional support. Each day, the center offers a noontime meal, opportunities for socialization, countless educational and recreational activities, and social work services to 300 to 400 older adults. Trips, yoga, dance, ping pong, karaoke, tai chi, and ESL are just a few of the activities the center offers. For old and young, Amico offers volunteer opportunities. We have social work interns from New York University Graduate School of Social Work, developmentally disabled volunteers from local PDS chapter and the Department for Education, and many local high school and college students who need to do community service or an internship. For an older adult who has become more frail and vulnerable, the center offers casework assistance to help with any issues which may arise, issues such as housing, transportation, and healthcare needs. Amico has been part of the larger community since its beginning. The center has many affiliations with other community organizations: Maimonides Medical Center, the Department of Education, AARP, JASA, Catholic Charities, and the Chinese Planning Council, just to name a few. Amico has also been part of the community. Amico has allowed community and governmental agencies to use the center space for community meetings at DEP, as well as the Community Board, and several others. In addition, the center operates as a cooling and warming center during the weather-related emergencies and is open to all community residents during those times. Amico has received much support from its local, city, state, and federal elected officials who have always been very generous with their support of the center and the services it provides. In closing, the Amico Senior Center has been a vital part of the Brooklyn Community Board 12 for many years. As the community has changed, so has the center changed and evolved over the years to meet the needs of today's older residents of the community. Today's membership is reflective of the changing demographics of this community. Amico hopes and expects to be able to serve this community for years to come. We wholeheartedly ask that the Borough President support our efforts for the renewal of our lease for the next 20 years. I'll be able to join by then. Thank you for this opportunity, and I welcome any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to take this opportunity to ask, what outreach, first, how many meals served per day at Amico Senior Center?
It can vary, but we're funded for 264 per day. Sometimes we go a little under, sometimes a little over, but 264 on average was 66,000 a year.
And Dr. Pastore, what is the outreach you are able to conduct to ensure that seniors throughout, as they age in population within the area, hear about the benefits of the senior center to attract seniors to come?
All right, well,
And it doesn't seem like you have much of a difficult time considering 264 meals per day average.
you know, we used to be overcrowded every day, but now because of the influx of these pop-up adult daycare centers, we're having to work a little bit harder. I don't mind telling you. Most of it is word of mouth. However, in the last couple of years or so, we certainly have put a nice website out there, which some older adults find, mostly their children find. We were fortunate, I had interns, they actually have gone door to door, and we've reached out to the Polish community, we've reached out to the Chinese community, we still try to reach out to the Italian community, which was our original population, Hispanic, et cetera, but what we have done a lot of is flyers and one-to-one visits with key figures in the community, as well as putting flyers perhaps in a doctor's office or a medical center or even the community board, anywhere an older adult may go.
And you don't have delivery of home meals
No, we don't.
or home care services?
No, we don't,
Okay.
unfortunately.
So you're standalone senior center?
Correct. Although we are affiliated now with the Eileen C. Dugan Senior
Yes.
Center. We just took over sponsorship of that, so we call it our sister center.
Correct.
But standalone,
Of course.
yeah.
And as far as the borough president, the city lease terms, we've known, have not been negotiated for a long term the way it once was in the history of the city. And so we're trying to understand, how is this senior center and its daycare facility trying to prevent the risk of being displaced out of this neighborhood after a 20-year term is up, in order to protect what are the possibilities of more financial lucrative opportunities available to landlords. So we want to make sure that examples we've seen in South Slope and Williamsburg, communities that are not repeated and that we learn from, so that we can make sure that there's a duration of lease terms and protections for the city of New York. Is there any option to renew after the 20-year lease? Is this a combination of a 10-year lease with an option to renew for 10 more? Or is this just 20 years, no right of first refusal?
So DCAS is still negotiating the new lease. They've taken information about us, a scope of work, and we requested the 20-year term. In general, that's about the longest that they get. You know, some of the other leases, ACS only wanted 5-year terms, which we thought was way too short. We think a 20-year horizon, we can definitely see having a senior center for 20 more years. And so we asked for the most. At this point, I don't know if they'll do a 10-year and a 10-year renewal or just a flat 20.
So if you could just express to me with clarity, the daycare center is asking for a 5-year?
So there's no daycare center
Okay.
at this premises
Okay,
anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought, I heard you
No,
mention.
we're involved in a bunch of leases, so, yeah.
So in this particular standalone site, it's only senior services,
Only the
And-
senior center, yes.
only senior center.
For the city.
Just so you know, there used to be an ACS center there since the 1970s. They went out of business about a year ago because of internal workings at Catholic Charities, which was the sponsor, and now a private Orthodox Jewish school has moved in. So it's a private tenant with the Department for the Aging tenant right now.
Fantastic. So the daycare services is a private lease, separate and aside from the senior service center that, the renewal of a lease.
Yes.
And you're not sure exactly what that lease outcome will be, but it will be negotiated by DCAS. And at the moment, you're asking for a total of 20 years, but that remains to be seen as far as what the terms will be in as so far as the language.
Right, we have yet to see the term sheet, yes.
Okay. And as far as the borough president supporting Mayor de Blasio's Vision Zero agenda, we just wanted to find out, as the building houses a senior center and a child care center, the borough president believes making street crossings safer for seniors and children need to be a priority. So we just wanted to ask, as far as the department is concerned in trying to implement what is a safer city for seniors, in a aging-friendly city for seniors, is there an opportunity here? Has it been requested from DIFTA, working with its sister agency like DOT, to be able to have curb extensions placed at the site's street crossings?
Yeah, so we have just begun discussing this with city planning, and DIFTA supports the idea. We're going to reach out to DEP, Parks, and DOT to get their expertise and see what's the best thing for that corner. We think 13th Avenue is a busy street. The shorter crossing would be ideal. We are adjacent to M1 properties, and that presents some difficulties in terms of loadings and unloadings. And so we're really looking to do something better.
And understanding that we want for the coexisting of business and what would be the services to the community, just making sure that as the discussions continue to further along what is this agenda, if we can be of any assistance at Borough Hall, let us know.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And part of the Borough President's vision for Brooklyn includes beautification of our streets by planting trees, and I know that you mentioned Parks Department. Within that, has there been a request for Million Trees New York City program to plant a tree?
Several years ago, I did request from the community board trees, and we do have trees on, I don't know if you can tell, on the 13th Avenue side.
Right.
So requested them for 59th Street. They told me they would be too close to the traffic light
Right.
and didn't grant permission.
Okay. And that was several years back.
Yeah.
So you're going to be revisiting this through the action as mentioned before?
Yes.
Fantastic. And as far as the Borough President's policy to practice what would be the retention of storm runoff water, in addition to trees along 59th Street, there's an opportunity to be able to loop in what would be the Department of Environmental Protection for bioswales. Is that something that you're also open to and will reach out to that agency?
Yes.
Fantastic. I appreciate that very much. And the last particular point we want to just share with you is the Borough President's policy to maximize job opportunities for Brooklynites with local businesses and hiring practices or apprenticeship programs. As you mentioned, you have a relationship with NYU, I believe you mentioned, the School of Social Work. How does the Amico Senior Center go about filling such opportunities, and what steps may be taken for future promotion of locally based hiring?
Well, since we are a standalone center, most of the folks who work there have worked there for many, many years, and they come from the community. So we have wonderful volunteers. We have wonderful employees. Most of them, I would say, probably 75% of them walk to work. So we've always reached into the direct community. I find that people just stay longer, and it works better for everybody, the community and certainly the center as well. When I do, on the rare occasions, have an opening, oftentimes it's filled through somebody knows somebody who lives in the community. So we always make an effort to reach out to the direct community, and by the same token with business, we always make the effort to reach out to community
Locally
vendors.
based.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we appreciate that effort. We just wanted to make sure the viewers, as they see this, for the public transparency, to be able to understand that they would go to Amico Senior Center for any opportunity, whether that's locally vending with local businesses for opportunity, or hiring practices that they speak to you, Dr. Pastori, correct?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate your patience, and we hope to communicate what would be the Borough President's support for the Senior Center and its longevity in the community.
So we don't have any speakers, so just call before we close it out.
So we are going to close this item out, and we just want to know from the public if there's any other member of the public who would like to testify on this matter for this calendar item regarding Amico Senior Center. And seeing none, this item is closed. We move on to the next calendar item.
Calendar item number 2 and calendar item number 3, 150180 HAK and 150179 HAK.
The Department of Housing Preservation and Development proposes to designate property as an urban development action area for development in Community District 5 and 16. In East New York, 653, 655, and 659 Lynwood Street would be developed as a 4-story residential building with about 10 units of affordable housing and 4 parking spaces under HPD's low-income rental program. In Brownsville, 2095-2097, 2103-2105, and 2038A-2040 Pacific Street would be developed with 4-story residential buildings with a total of about 20 units of affordable housing under HPD's low-income rental program. Community Board 5 and 16 have not yet voted on these applications due to the recent blizzard, so the Borough President will hold off on making any decisions until the Borough President hears from these boards, with Community Board 16 having its hearing and board meetings on February 24th and Community Board 5 on February 25th. With the representatives for these 2 applications, Lynn Zan, please state your name for the record and present the applications.
Hi, good evening, thank you. My name is Lynn Zhang. I'm represented from Department of Housing Preservation and Development. HPD is seeking a UDAP designation and project approval and a disposition of 8 city-owned lots that are scattered between Community Boards 5 and 16 in Brooklyn to facilitate the development and construction of 4 new residential buildings in Brownsville, East New York. 3 of the 4 sites are located on Pacific Street between Howard and Saratoga Avenues, and the 4th site is located in Lynwood between Blake and Dumont Avenues. All of the 4 project sites are located on mid-block of low-scale residential blocks. The 4 proposed buildings will be built pursuant to the existing R6 and R5 zoning districts that they're locating in. The proposed buildings have also been designed to be within context of the surrounding site's built character. In fact, the development of the proposed buildings would improve the streetscape of the subject blocks by filling in gaps along those portions of Pacific and Lynwood streets that have stood vacant and underutilized for a long time. The completed projects will create a total of 30 rental units, a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units that will be available to families making up to 60% of AMI. The project sponsor is here today, and she'll provide greater detail to the project proposal. I'm also here to answer any questions after the project sponsor's presentation, but we're looking forward the Borough President's support in this great project. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ismini Spiliotis. I'm the Executive Director of Mahani Management, Inc., related also to Mutual Housing Association of New York that people might know better. Mahani is a not-for-profit community development organization that's been around since 1986, and we own and manage over 1,500 apartments in 4 of the 5 boroughs. We started our work in East New York and the Brownsville neighborhoods of Brooklyn, and that is where most of our buildings are. So we're very, very happy to be here. Thank you, and want to discuss what we're planning for the lots that were awarded to us through HPD. So we have, it's a mix, as the Deputy Bureau President mentioned, it's 2 ULURP applications, and we're, in order to get the best financing for the package and in order to get the best affordability and the best economy of scale, we have combined them, and we may even combine the financing with yet another project, you know, to get, again, to get the best affordabilities out of the buildings. But today, we have the lots on Pacific Street in the Ocean Hill-Brownsville section of Brooklyn, and they involve, you can see it on the right here, and what you're seeing is that we have several blocks. Can I pick? Okay. So I just want to be able to walk and show you. So basically, whoops, it's all right, we'll see how well I do. So, oops, this one. So here on Pacific, it's these 5 lots, and they're very, very narrow. And so what we did was combine them. So one of the actions is that the lots on the south side of the street will actually be combined, and then the north one will stand alone. And then on Lynwood, let me stay here. So on these were originally granted to Manny as part of a new foundation site in the year 2007. And so we've been working really hard to determine what to build there so that it's, as Lynn said, contextual to the neighborhood, fills up these vacant lots. Right now they've been sitting vacant for a long, long time. Maximize what we can build based on the zoning, but really kind of, so the buildings are going to be flat, and we'll show you another picture. See if we have that one here. I'll just show you the, and then we can talk about the actual unit counts and the income and all that in a minute. There you go. So this, okay, so you'll see here that this gives you a very good sense of the design. It's, you know, it's a modern building compared to what's there, but both by materials and flat, so it's actually lined up with the existing buildings. We, again, wanted to maximize the unit count for affordable housing. But you can see that as you're walking down the street, you would never know that this building was any different than any other building, and because the top unit is actually set back. So when you're walking down the street on either side, you actually can't quite see it, okay? But you actually get an additional apartment on that top floor, and that happens on both sides of the street. So, so that's the Pacific Street project. On Lynwood, this goes back even farther. We were awarded this 659 Lynwood as part of neighborhood homes. When we went to visit, we realized there was a very little building that was not going to be a house. So we actually asked to remove it from neighborhood homes. We made an application to the city to put these 2 lots that were city-owned together, and we were able to design what will now be a 10 10-story, a 10-unit building at that site. And because this is R6, we'll be sharing the driveway with the adjacent owner. We will be actually doing all the improvements on the adjacent owner's lot. We'll be sharing. We've already started talking to the adjacent owner in terms of improving so we can both drive in. So he can go to the left and park, and we have 4 parking spots. Again, this building, this isn't a great view. You don't get the full sense. There's, I will give you a document after. So these are smaller, but the building again here is straight, flat with the existing buildings, and this piece here is actually set back. So when you're walking down the street, you don't actually feel like that building is taller. At the ends of Lynwood Street, towards Blake and Dumont, you actually do have taller buildings, so it's contextual. So that's the design of the buildings. I think what I just want to mention, and then I'll just take your questions. I want to just highlight for the record the unit count that Manny is trying to achieve. We try very hard to create family-size units. In this case, the zoning, the height, and the narrowness of the lots really dictated what we could build. But on the Pacific Street parcel, we get 11 one-bedrooms, 8 two-bedrooms, and 1 three-bedroom. And on the Lynwood, we get 4 one-bedrooms and 8 two-bedrooms. And as I mentioned before, 4 parking spots. In terms of the affordability, we in the document I'll submit for the record, we're talking about median, apartments at the 40% of AMI, which is about $28,000 for a family of 4, 50% AMI, which is about $35,000 for a family of 4, and at the 58% AMI, which is about $43,000 for a family of 4. We are hopeful that if we get either Reso-A funds and if we combine it with yet another development, that we could actually add a tier at the 28% of area median income, which would allow us to provide some units to a 4-person family at $20,000 a year. So we are excited. Again, we're going through ULURP, so it hasn't all been finalized. But absolutely, the 40, the 50, the 40, the 50, and the 60% AMI, and very possibly a 30% AMI band if we can get the financing together for that. So unit count, income ranges. I guess I can stop there and let you ask some questions about the project.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for the presentation. We have been joined by Councilmember Mealy, and I wanted to just take a moment to ask, you've already gone through what would be household size and anticipated income bands. The rents that are based on what would be the family of 4 at a 40% versus 50% versus 60%.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry.
No,
yes,
quite
so
all right.
for the record, so if there's if we were able to get the 30% band, the way that we underwrite is that people don't pay more than 30% of their income in rent, at least at the very beginning, and we try to maintain that throughout the life of the project, which is actually forever. So the rent for a family making $20,000 is $468 a month after taking into account the utility allowance. For a family of 4 making $28,000, the rent is $657 a month. For a family of 4 making up to 50% of median, which is $35,000, the rent is almost $850. It's $847. And for a family of 4 making up to 60%, which is $43,000, it's the rent's $1,035. All of these are 30%, taking into account the electricity that the family themselves would be paying.
Separate.
Yes.
And this particular affordability as far as the units are concerned, have no moderate or middle income ranges.
Well, so in
The
the neighborhood,
43.
I mean, so we have units at the 60% of area median income, and in East New York and in Brown, so in East New York, the median income for the entire Community Board 5 is about $43,000, which is right about, it's like 41,000, which is about 43% of the citywide area median. So we're building for the families who are currently residing in East New York. In the Ocean Hill-Brownsville neighborhood, the median income is actually closer to 33,000 for a family of 4. So when we're building units at 43,000, and so we have some units at 28,000 and some units at 43,000. So in fact, we're trying to provide units right kind of below, at, and above
Correct.
the income of the current residents of the neighborhood of Brownsville.
Fantastic. And as far as the affordability, there is no super unit, therefore not foregoing what would be that extra unit. All the units are dedicated for rentals.
Yes.
Rentals.
Yes, and Manny has a very unique approach to its buildings, which is that because we own and manage a portfolio of really small buildings, the average size of our buildings is actually 3 units per building. We have 1,500 units in 150 buildings, okay? And so, and with a handful of very large. So we have a huge portfolio of really small buildings that are actually in and around, which is one of the reasons the city looked to Manny to do this particular project, because we actually own and manage buildings in and around this particular 2 sites, both in East New York and in Brownsville. And the way that we approach the work in order to keep it affordable and make it affordable and really get a kind of a real kind of buy-in by the residents, and also not lose a unit to non-rent from a super, is that we have a system of handymen. So the repair calls come into the central office, and work orders and the handymen are deployed for all kinds of repair work. The residents, when they're selected through the lottery, which we can talk about, are introduced to the Manny program, and in exchange for these affordable rents and not having the super, the residents participate in taking out the garbage and keeping the hallways clean. We provide all of the supplies, et cetera, and then in return, we really try to maintain the affordability of those units beyond rent stabilization, et cetera. But the repair work, the things that people don't necessarily know how to do, Manny takes responsibility for.
And what is the community board preference? So this straddles 2 community boards. There will be a 50% preference
Yes.
for community board 16 and 5.
Correct. So the Pacific Street properties fall in Community Board 16, and the Lynwood property falls in Community Board 5. So the preference, which we think of as a minimum, not a maximum, and expect that 100% of our residents for these 2 developments would come from the neighborhoods, from the 2 neighborhoods, Community Board 16 and Community Board 5.
And as far as marketing is concerned for this project, because they are already structures that exist on,
No,
Pacific?
they're vacant.
okay.
They're vacant
So-
land.
So this is just a mock-up.
This is what it's going to look like.
Right. So as far as marketing is concerned and being able to have what would be the local residents know how to get in touch concerning these units in the pipeline, if you could just share as far as information is concerned for the public, because this is being recorded.
So I just want to tell you that Manny is, I am very proud as the director of Manny to say that we literally, except for one time, have met and exceeded the community preference, okay? So for full disclosure, there was one time we didn't quite make it. And it's not just the neighborhood preference, it's also the disability and the handicap preferences, the municipal. We try really hard to do the outreach in a way where the community benefits from what we are building. And
So it's meaning, if
yeah.
you can just, it's a 50% preference for community board 16 and 5. There's ADA preference as well, disability preference.
Yes.
So if you are,
Both physically, visually, and hearing impaired. So it's 5% physical disability and 2% hearing and visually impaired. And those people in the lottery jump to the top of the preference. You know, we look for them first through the lottery process. And then I can actually show you what's really important about this is not just to market to people, that the visual and the hearing impaired is rather easy because you put strobe lights, you know, you're doing things. But in terms of the handicap, and the city's gotten very, very good at this over the last few years with the Section 504, is that, and the Lynwood property really allows this because, and the new construction, which we have a real hard time when we rehab buildings to meet the handicap requirement because, as you can see on the street, the buildings all have stoops, okay, they have stairs. But here, you're coming in flat, and as you can see, and one of our jobs to show the city and the borough president and the council people that, in fact, you can make the turn with a wheelchair, okay? And so that's a requirement that 5% of the units have to meet the Section 504 full handicap accessibility requirements.
as well as the common spaces.
And all the common spaces. And in these little buildings where we're maximizing, we're trying really, really hard to maximize the space. So there aren't services. We're going to do the laundry because in an effort to keep them affordable, there's not going to be huge basements or anything, so the laundry hookups will be in the units, so there's very few kind of amenities. You know, we look to our neighbors in terms of all kinds of services, whether it's activities and social services, support services, and these are their homes. So
Right.
in both cases, we focus on providing the affordable home, and then really kind of hook people up to the services that they may or may not need once they become residents of our buildings.
And what is the preference for municipal workers?
Two. I think it's two. I think it's two for municipal. And I can confirm. I know it's two for
Right.
the visibility, for visible and hearing impaired. And I can't. I may be wrong on the municipal.
Okay. And as far as veteran preference, is there any veteran
You
preference?
know, I think that the city actually just came out with the
Yes.
veteran preference, and so we're extreme. We work with the Black veterans, and so we're very, very happy to reach out to them and consider them for
And is that
the
something
units.
that HPD will be incorporating as part of the approval process, or? If you could go to the mic so that way.
This project will, follow all the HPD marketing guidelines. So if it does require a preference for veterans, then, this project would have to comply with that. But I'm not sure, so I would have to
And
double
if you
check.
can, right,
Yeah.
if you can check the verification of that, I know that there are some initiatives for targeting what would be veterans, and so we want to make sure that if there's an opportunity for this project to meet that requirement, and moving forward for the borough of Brooklyn, we'd like to see that more emphasized. I think in all the ULURPs I've heard, this is probably the one ULURP that had all the specific percentage preferences in various areas. And perhaps it's just that we never asked beyond what would be community preference. So it's
Yeah.
good to hear HPD approving projects on the visual, hearing, physically handicapped, municipal workers, and in addition to that, the veterans would capture what would be.
Well, what Ismini described is our standard HPD marketing guidelines. Yeah.
And I can appreciate guidelines. I'm more interested in outcome.
Yeah, we will meet and exceed. And I just want to say that after Hurricane Sandy, HPD issued a Hurricane Sandy displaced people priority, and Manny actually had a project in marketing and was able to house victims from Hurricane Sandy that had been displaced in our buildings. So we're very happy. Whatever comes out between now and the building's marketing time, we will accommodate that in
Of
the marketing. And so just to meet that preference and how that's done, Manny actually developed a whole PowerPoint and has done its own kind of pre-marketing outreach to residents. We've done one with Councilwoman Mealy and her office. We've done one in East New York, and then last Thursday we did one in Crown Heights as part of the Downtown Brooklyn pre-marketing initiative. We had over 400 people present that day. And what that effort is, it's not related to any direct lottery or marketing, but a lot of people, as we have read in the press, are getting rejected through the lottery. So we think that there's work that we're working on with the city about why it's happening, what the criteria are, but at the same time that we're working with the city on the criteria, we are actually working with residents of our communities to prepare them so that they are ready to apply and they are ready for selection as the buildings get built.
Absolutely, which are practices that I know increase the chances of what would be fair opportunity.
Yes.
So as far as this block is concerned, Ismini, I wanted to just emphasize the barren desert of trees. And if we can just make sure that we can work with New York Restoration Project, who manages what would be the Million Trees campaign,
Yes.
to get what would be, and obviously as a nonprofit, your commitment to community development does not limit you to just development of housing, but rather the development of community. The whole block could be a potential for street plant trees or street trees planted.
Yes.
For the block. And if we can help you facilitate that and lower the cost of what would be line trees on the block for the purposes of your project.
No, it does look very desolate there, and we absolutely, whether it's because of our, pavement requirements, at the Department of Buildings, would put a tree no matter what. But I think if I'm hearing you correctly, we are very happy to take a leadership role and to actually kind of increase the tree population on the whole block and work with our neighbors to do that.
And we
I
will
make that
help
commitment.
facilitate
Great.
the dialogue between New York Restoration Project and Manny as an organization for that block.
Great.
Fantastic.
Great. And I think Lynwood has the same. I think Lynwood also.
I would
is a
agree, I
little,
just don't see a photo.
Oh,
Right, you,
yeah.
I think you're presuming.
Well, I think we put the trees there.
Right, so we will help us beautify Brooklyn, and we appreciate you taking that lead
Yes,
with us.
absolutely.
And my final question, as far as green aspects to the project, if you can just tell us what type of renewable energy or sustainability practices were a part of your project.
Yeah, so as with any HPD project, we're required to follow the Enterprise Green Communities requirements. And again, that's you have a menu of things that you pick. We work very hard to exceed the Enterprise Green Community requirements. Some of the things that we do that don't cost more, but really make a huge difference both in the quality of life of the residents and in terms of the energy costs for the building. So we have roof insulation, we do exterior insulation, so all the exterior walls have rigid insulation. You've got the roof insulation, we do insulation on the ground floor, so it's not cold at the ground. The windows are, of course, thermal paned, and we have lighting, so we have all energy efficient lighting, energy efficient appliances, high efficiency boilers in the buildings. In terms of lights, on the outside, the lights go on and off with the sun, so they're not on timers, so you're not wasting electricity. When it's dark, the lights are on. When it's light, they're off. And that's true in any spaces that aren't used, like if there is going to be a basement, then when the light goes on when you go down, but it doesn't, and we actually put them on auto so that people don't forget to turn the switch off, and then it just, it's running all the time. Some of the other, we have the low flow water faucets and shower heads. We use all non-toxic materials. The buildings are hardwood floor. All our buildings have hardwood floors, but where in the kitchen, if there happens to be any VCT and or any paint, it's all non-toxic materials. And then on the roof, we actually will be doing a white roof, and we haven't yet determined, but the roof will be able to hold the solar panels, and we're looking to see if it makes sense. And it's nice here because they're high, right? Our buildings are higher, you know, as setback than a couple of the others, so if we could grab those panels. And the price of the solar panels is coming down, so it's really starting to become efficient.
So in discussing what would be the best practices as far as the green enterprise, which we're happy to see being applied in this application for these particular rentals, we'd like to offer the opportunity, Ben Baruch, who is our capital director, to be able to have Manny apply for what would be possible funding, reservoir funding, for future solar panels.
Great.
That would be a fantastic opportunity to pilot what would be affordable housing and the next layer of green enterprise at a higher capacity. The Borough Presidents committed to renewable and sustainable energy for the Borough of Brooklyn, and taking what would be different areas of interest to see what works best. We were interested in doing it here for our home base as part of our message to lead by example, but also partnering with organizations such as yours will be just as valuable as well.
We would love it, and we have. I mean, we've looked at it, and we'd love it, and we'd like to be, again, you see them on big buildings,
Right.
but it'd be great if we could figure out a way to do them on the smaller buildings also.
I agree with you, and you're preparing for such.
Great.
And I know that the opportunities for MWBE goals and local business enterprise for the process of construction of the development of these sites, if you can just speak into the mic and express how would a local business, an MWBE subcontractor, find opportunities for procurement opportunities to work on this particular project.
So one of the things this is the hardest, I'm not going to lie to you, this is absolutely so hard to do. But because we have several, it starts from looking at general contractors and seeing if there are minority or women general contractors, and we've talked with Councilwoman Mealy over the years about trying to find a way to make that happen. And it's really hard, okay? It's really hard because they're smaller and because there's a balance between the kind of the construction costs and then what's available in the budget to find a way to make that happen. But that's like the first place we look.
Right.
The second place we look, if that doesn't materialize in terms of like the general contractor being a woman or minority-owned company, is to look at the general contractors that are kind of a notch up, a little bit bigger, and then because we work repeat performance with our contractors, and we tell them to hire locally and buy locally, we can see if they did it. Okay, and so when we go back and say, okay, do you want to bid on this project? I say, well, you didn't use anybody local, so you don't get to bid on this project. Okay, so we have an opportunity to kind of reinforce good behavior. Okay, which is that if you do what we asked you to do in the last project and really kind of gave back directly to the community and to Brooklyn, then you get another chance. And if you didn't and you don't really care and you're buying from China, then we might not be as interested. And so that's another place that we look. And then we work with both the councilwoman and we work with other organizations who are focused on local hire to then make the match on the actual positions between, when jobs open up. And again, they're not a huge number of jobs, so again, I'm not gonna lie. But when there's that opportunity, we try to make that connection so that local people have an opportunity. And what we're really trying to figure out is, local hire for a day or for like 2 weeks and then you're done. So we've been really trying to figure out how to do local hire where there's a skill built and that contractor takes you with him or her to their next job, right? And it's not this short-lived temporary experience. We have not solved that, but that's what we keep trying to figure out.
That it's a partnership, and we're just trying to build the building blocks so that we create the culture, as you said, but we appreciate your receptiveness to all these items, and we look forward to just further conversations and helping this project along as we move through the process. But thank you very much
Thank
for all the
you.
information and the thorough effort in presenting this particular, these two applications, considering they're two separate projects.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I hope I
Thank you.
didn't take too long.
No, no, no.
Thank you. Thanks.
It's quite all right. It's better to have more information than less. We do have a member of the public, Councilmember Mealy, from District 41. You're going to testify? Yeah.
Good evening. And I just want to say I'm against this project. Even though it is small parcels, I will be voting no on this project today. And furthermore, this is a new foundation project, was done years ago, in which it was supposed to be affordable housing. And in that area, we have to continue keeping affordable housing that people could purchase. Home ownership is important just as well. And we have some RFQs coming out, at least about, oh my God, about 50 that it'll be rental projects that will need and would like to have something like this in certain areas. But in that area, I spoke to some of the homeowners, and they would like to have more housing, home ownership there, that it wouldn't be such a transit of renters. Even though we say that is good, but once a neighborhood become rental, people come in and out, and they would like to keep it as stable as possible. And I have it in the record. You can have I have another meeting upstairs just as well. And just for the record, in addition, this designation, neither HPD nor the developer, they had briefed me years ago, and it was supposed to be for affordable housing. And now it has transpired to rental. I don't know how that has happened. And I would love if HPD will come next time to at least let us know about the ULURP or the UDAP when it's about to be changed. And that's a transparency that we are working with. I called the mayor's office today, I called HPD, and they still have not came back with the ULURP nor the UDAP, in which this is supposed to be new foundation and affordable housing to sell. So I just hope that one of these other projects, they can use it somewhere else. We have so many RFQs coming out. It should be out in the next week. And I hope they can look and see another partial, maybe they can do that, but I would like them to keep it for what it was designated for, housing.
And you, thank you, Councilmember. And you have a meeting set up with the mayor's office about this project?
Yes. How did you know?
I'm just confirming what is a
Okay.
statement,
Yes.
considering making sure that this particular project, as it was envisioned
Right.
during the new foundation, pre the recession, because this was all around what would be before the recession, and now after the recession, it has turned into rentals.
Exactly. And the process, how did it just pop up and change? And it should be discussed with the elected official in its district also. I asked HPD numerous of times to give me exactly what is coming down the pipeline. To this day, they have not gave me anything on this project. To this minute, I called them before I came here again to see exactly where this paperwork is for transparency. We as elected officials have to value transparency to know exactly where it come from it. Because the ULURP was, I believe it was even 4 years ago with this new foundation. And how did it get to rental a property? I would love to see how it just transpired like that. So I'm just asking for this. I hope the borough president could work with them and myself for so many other projects this can work with, and I hope they can start thinking about veteran housing. 50% of veteran housing we need now and not later.
Well, we appreciate your coming, you're coming here to share your position and keep us abreast of
I
your
definitely will.
conversations with the mayor's office. And we want to be able to take into consideration what would be the community board's position on this as well. And so the borough president will not be making a decision on these projects until after the February 24th and February 25th community board meetings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going upstairs.
This is the end of the last item, and I wanted to ask if there are any other speakers ready to testify. Seeing none who have not signed in, I'd like to ask Richard to close this item.
Okay, calendar items number 2 and 3 are closed.
The hearing on this item is now closed. Thank you for participating in this public hearing. The borough president will review the applications that we heard today and will soon submit his recommendations to the City Planning Commission. I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that the City Planning Commission will hold a public hearing on this item. The hearing is now adjourned. I'd like to remind those viewing on the website that timely comments can be submitted by email to askeric@brooklynbp.nyc.gov. I'd like to take this opportunity also to thank Chris, our fellow, and our land use director, Richard Bayrak, for their work on this ULURP hearing and their continuous efforts in making sure that we are delivering to all of Brooklyn's residents. Thank you very much.